Good morning, Doctor. We are from Group 1. Our topic for presentation today is about the impact of pandemic COVID-19 on food supply in Malaysia. So here is our group members. Changes numeric 279113, Pumpaying numeric 279655, Muhammad Haikal bin Muhammad Khalidi, numeric 284421, Eng Shihan, numeric 284653, and Siti Nurul Azira binti Mausuda, numeric 284785.
My name is Muhammad Haikal bin Muhammad Khalidi. My metric number 284421. So firstly, I want to explain about introduction. The outbreak of 22 cases that occurred during a sizable public religious gathering of 16,000 people in Sri Petaling, a town near to the capital of Kuala Lumpur, caused a rise of COVID-19 cases in Malaysia at the end of February. This switch action was necessary due to the speed and intensity of the COVID-19, but it gave many people little time to make plans due to the mobility limitations and market opening in the first week after the MCOs. Food supply chains, especially those urban regions, were affected. The food supply chain to the local open market was significantly impacted by the MCO's rapid adoption. They were not permitted to open during the lockdown since it was difficult to practice social distance in those markets. There have been multiple instances of farmers at the end of the food supply chain rejecting or throwing away their agricultural product due to the perishable nature of the crop. So next, through the National Agriculture Policy, the government created strategies to attain self-sufficiency in food production after the nation gained independence. It entails maintaining a steady supply of food even during extreme weather, even including earthquakes, floods, volcanic eruption, tornadoes, and pandemic, with the exception of sporadic short-term floods that occasionally occur in some areas of the East Coast. Malaysia is endowed with abundant natural resources and is free of natural calamities. The majority of the people did not consider access to or availability of food as a problem prior to the lockdown. For everyone who had previously believed that food supply and accessibility in Malaysia came as a given, the commencement of COVID-19 act as a wake-up call. The MCO implementation has put Malaysia food security in jeopardy. Policy makers must remain aware and create plan to deal with such a shock should they arise in the future.
On this slide, I'm gonna talk about challenges during pandemic on food supply. I've listed 3 here. The first one is difficulties producing enough goods, as in agricultural sectors. The farmers have trouble selling their products because mostly it turned to waste. This inadequacy of food storage has caused damage, causing loss to farmers equal to unavailability to obtain food at reasonable price. The next one is Malaysia's dependency on imported food supplies. Related to the first point, our government had to import food from other countries to cover up the insufficient resources from the local supplier. For example, rice. Our government have to import rice from Thailand and Vietnam to obtain sufficient supply of rice to meet the demand of our populations. The last point is shortage of labor. Labor shortage due to COVID-19 crisis caused severe disruption in some sectors such as livestock production or even planting, which are relatively labor intensive. Is there a shortage of workforce as a result of illness and physical distance to be maintained during production? The crisis undermines the ability of farms in agricultural business to work. Although many manufacturers rely on the core input, most are susceptible to disruption is the most obtain the requirements from domestic markets. Logistic barriers that disrupt food supply chains further weaken high-value goods due to their short shelf of life.
Good morning, Doctor. My name is Tianjishu's numeric 279113. I will continue with the recommendations to ensure the food supply during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result of the lockdowns, as well as a number of prohibitions addressing social distancing and travel restrictions, the food supply chain has suffered some serious consequences, such as food shortage, price increase, and health issues for users. Is also a result of a lack of variety in their diets and drop in their consumption of healthy foods. I feel these repercussions. To ensure that the amount of food products for consumption in Malaysia, it is also essential to ensure that the food supply chain runs properly. There are four suggestions to ensure the food supplies. Start from the first recommendation, which is maintaining supply chain infrastructure. Government should give permissions for food supply workers to pass through product shutdowns was a critical way to maintain Malaysian fuel and food supplies. Fuel warehousing, refrigeration, and distribution of food, for example, were virtually untouched from supply infrastructure standpoint throughout the area. So furthermore, retaining wholesale businesses open, classifying agriculture marketplace as vital services, and enabling delivery services of fruits, especially for the younger, older, Aboriginal people, university students, and the immobile, in order to keep many businesses afloat. The government's JobKeeper initiative, which is federal government payment support program for Malaysian enterprises, also help businesses continue operating. The ability to keep on farm labor was critical to the continuation of corporate operations. Besides, the second point is virus stations in food processing research and development. More investigations is necessary to combat this epidemic in the long term. Due to the absence of current protocols in place to detect the existence of the virus outbreak on interface or in public areas, relating bioanalytical instruments such as an approach of tracing and detecting virus in the surroundings where food is produced, manufactured, and handled must be evolved. This method would be effective in detecting the presence of the virus on ambient surface and also reducing or eliminating the likelihood of transmissions through products, packaging, and surrounding habitats. In addition to protecting patrons and staff, limiting transmissions within food handling facilities, including food processing factories, restaurants, and grocery stores, is essential to halting the spread of COVID-19. Next point is communicate effectively. During the rapidly growing pandemic crisis, communication was difficult with the direct text and telephone forms of communication that used guarantee producers were at the forefront of what customer and wholesaler desire. To ensure quick and accurate information dissemination for food merchants, large food supply businesses and buying agents provided constant updates on food and water supplies online via a platform. For example, certain parties were able to effectively communicate with one of the health officials on the COVID plans and how to fill it out in order to do all the food work for what the state government was and to ensure that all the plans were actually executing in the right directions. Last but not least is the adaptability in business. Multiple contingency plan was developed and frequently merged during the COVID-19. To avoid waste, some hospitality businesses offer leftover supplies such as wheat to vulnerable groups, while some shopkeepers drove up for 90 minutes to transport local produce to keep their businesses running. In the production sector, the primary producer used the example of getting into food boxes. It was an experiment because they have no idea what will happen. Collaboration with some other firms has been a big success, and they have not considered it previously. With the help of government's emergency aid, alter their food distributions, utilizing simple food coupons which could be purchased in huge amount. So that's all from me. Thank
Good day, everyone. My name is Poon Pei Ying, and now I will continue to present the policy of Malaysia. Malaysian government should tackle the issue of food supply and food security in the country related to the pandemic of COVID-19 on the problem of food supply in the Malaysia. Malaysian government has formulated the National Agro-Food Policy (NAP 2.0). The implementation of NAP 2.0 was over a period of 10 years from 2020 to 2030. There are three main principles in the policy, which are economy, social, and development. This policy contains 6 objectives, 21 strategy, and 77 action plans. The vision for NAP 2.0 was to develop the economic growth in the agri-food sector with a sustainable, resilient, and technology. They also have 5 initiatives in the development of NAP 2.0. NAP 2.0 will focus in the 4 sub-industries, which are fruit and vegetable, paddy and rice, fisheries and aquaculture, and livestock subsector. The second policy in Malaysia is National Nutrition Policy. This policy implemented to make sure that nutrition is used to attempt and sustain the population well-being effectively towards the country. The aim of policy is to ensure the quality and safety of food and develop an adequate supply of food. Besides, the objective of national nutrition policy are to enhance the well-being of all the consumers on the nutrition of food, ensure an adequate supply of food, and build out the relationship between the sector in the country. In conclusion, the policy of Malaysia were crucial on the economic growth and performance in the country. The Malaysian government needs to make sure the food supply chain are moved towards in many sectors in the countries to meet the higher food demand of consumer in the market. The food policy was important to ensure that all people to access have safety and healthy food. The food policy will also keeping the food supply safe to prevent any unsafe problem from happening.
Thank you for the previous presenter about our assignments. Next, I'm going to do a short conclusions about the titles of the assignment. Then the viewer can see the whole flow of the assignment clearly. Then it will make the video more interesting and attractive. Next, I continue to the conclusions following. It is a interesting and attractive video about how assignment breaks take rid of this. My name is Ang Si Han, number matric 284653. Next, I'm going to do a conclusions about the research we did before. The aim of this review is to evaluate the impact of pandemic COVID-19 on the food supply chains and summarize a whole recommendations and policies suitable to these issues. Food supply have been secured through a cooperation of local food output and supply of imported food in Malaysia throughout the years before pandemic of COVID-19 occurred. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is a contingency situation where it gives a definitely a worse impact on our food supply chains in Malaysia. Since the food supply chain is one of the vital sectors of the economies in Malaysia, thereby we have concern about this matter seriously. That's why we do a research based on some information we share. Since the risk of the food supply chains were exposed due to the COVID-19, we have to take the right actions by provide some relevant recommendations and policy of government is to reduce the risk corresponding with the food supply chains in Malaysia. We can conclude that the food supply chains must be flexible enough to respond to the risk and effect in the food supply chains. So we hope that the food supply chains in Malaysia can be sustainability in futures by the long-term plan. That's all from me. Thank you.
So that's all from our Group 1 presentations. Thank you.